Hey there. Seems to me, in light of our modern progressive society, it's time to upgrade some of our children's stories. So I thought I'd start with the Little Red Hen. Y'all know the story, so I'll run through the first part of it real quick for you. Little Red Hen lived on a farm, and she got all the other farm animals together and said, "Hey, I'm tired of eating seed and bugs all the time, and I think I'd like to have some bread. Would you guys like to have some bread?" And all the other farm animals said, "Well, yes, I would." She said, "Well, I know how to make bread, but I need some help. There's a lot to it, and the first thing I got to do is buy the seed to grow the wheat. And who wants to help me buy the seed?" And they all had excuses like, I just got a new cell phone, or I got to pay my car payment, or I just can't afford that right now. So she said, "Well, okay then, I'll go buy the seed myself." And so she did. And then she came back and she said, "Okay, the rest of it is no money, but I need some help with doing the work. We got to till the soil." And all the other farm animals, "Well, I just found a nice shady spot," or "I got a sore ankle," or "I got a migraine." So they came up with all kinds of excuses. And so she said, "All right then, well, I'll do it myself." So she tilled the soil, and then she came back. She told all the farm animals, "I could use some help planting the seeds." Again, they all had excuses. Came back later, says, "Okay, I got the seeds planted. I could use some help tending the crops," and all the other farm animals had excuses there too. And so she said, "I'll do it myself." So she did. So all summer long she took care of those crops, and she came back later, said, "Okay, all the crops are grown, but it's time to harvest the wheat. I could use some help with that." All kinds of excuses why they couldn't help her. So she said, "All right, I'll do it myself." So she did. Then she brought all the wheat back to the farmyard, and she said, "Okay, I need some help shucking the wheat and milling it and turning it into flour." And all the other farm animals got excuses there too. So she said, "Fine, I'll do it myself." So she did. And then she came back and she said, "Okay, I got all this flour. We need to turn it into bread dough and knead the dough." And all the other farm animals had excuses why they couldn't help her there. So she said, "Fine, I'll do it myself." So she did. Then she said it was time to bake the bread. She said, "Last step, everybody. I could really use some help here." And they all had excuses, so she said, "Fine, I'll do it myself." And she did. Now that bread was baking, and all the other farm animals were going, "That smells good." So they started knocking on her door and said, "I'd like some of that bread. That smells real good." She goes, "It isn't done yet." Slammed the door in her face. That happened several times, and then finally the bread was all done. So she went out. She says, "All right, all you other farm animals, I know you want some of this bread, but here's the deal. I paid for the seed, and I did all the work, and I gave you all kinds of chances to help me do the work, and if you'd have helped me just a little bit, I'd have probably given you some bread. But here's the way it's going to be. I did all the work, and I paid for it, so you're going to pay to have some of the bread." And some of the farm animals said, "Well, that sounds reasonable. She did do all the work." And so they started buying some of the bread from her. But a whole bunch of those farm animals were all kind of upset. They were just really beside themselves. How can she have all that bread and she won't share? So they went up to the farmhouse. Now, in the original story, there was Farmer Brown. But now, this story's got Farmer Fed. And that's short for federal government. The president and Congress. Well, anyway, so they went up and banged on the door, and they said, "Farmer Fed, Farmer Fed, Little Red Hen's got all this bread, and she won't share." Well, Farmer Fed said, "Well, that doesn't sound very right." So he went out there, and he saw that Little Red Hen had all this bread there, and he said, "Little Red Hen, all these farm animals are telling me you won't share your bread. And you got all this bread. It's way more than you need." And she said, "Well, I paid for the seeds, and I asked them for help every step of the way in order to grow the wheat and turn the wheat into flour and bake the bread and everything else, and none of them wanted to help me. So I told them if they want some bread, they should pay for it. And some of the farm animals are paying for it, and they like it." "Well," said Farmer Fed, "that doesn't really seem fair. You've got all these farm animals, and they don't have any bread, and you've got all this bread. I think it's just a little more fair if you spread the wealth around." And she said, "But it's my wealth. I did all the work, and I paid for the seeds. But it's more fair," is what Farmer Fed said. "It's more fair to spread the wealth around." And Little Red Hen said, "I don't care what you think is fair. It's mine. If they want some, they can pay for it." Now all this has already happened up till this point in our wonderful country. But where this story goes next, that's the big mystery. But here's where I think it's going. Well, Farmer Fed said, well, that's just not fair, and so I'm taking it. And he took all the bread that was left except for one loaf he left for the little red hen and her chicks. And then he kept about half of what he took for himself, because, of course, he's got administrative expenses and everything to take care of. And then he turned around and he gave all that other bread to all the other farm animals who weren't willing to pay for it. And all the other farm animals were cheering him on. That's right, you take that from her. She ain't got no right to have all that. Most of them didn't even seem to care that she had paid for the seed and she did all the work. They were just greedy little buggers, and they wanted to have their share. So, Little Red Hen was pretty bummed out about that. So she had to live the rest of the winter on a bunch of seeds and bugs. And so the next spring come around, Farmer Fed, he came back out to Little Red Hen's house and he said, Little Red Hen, that bread was real good. I want you to go out and get some seed and make some more bread so we can all have bread again. And Little Red Hen, with a defiant look on her face, said, you want me to spend my money and do all the work so you can take it away from me because it's more fair that way? And Farmer Fed said, well, yes. She got a real defiant look on her face and she said, I won't do it. Well, that defiant look really made Farmer Fed angry. He said, do you know who I am? How dare you defy me? And he reached down and he grabbed Little Red Hen by the neck and he picked her up. And all the other farm animals that got the free bread the year before, they were like, make her do it, make her do it. It's only fair, make her do it. And he squeezed on her neck a little bit. She still had a defiant look on her face and she said, I won't do it. But there was a little bit of fear in her eyes now. And that excited Farmer Fed. So he said, you won't do it, huh? And she said, no, I won't. And all the other farm animals said, make her do it, make her do it. It's only fair, make her do it. So he said, watch this. And with one motion, he grabbed a hatchet off of the wall and he chopped Little Red Hen's head right clean off. All the other farm animals weren't expecting that. They were like, oh. And he picked her up and he dragged her in the house and cooked her up and had her for supper. Well, the other farm animals were a little confused by all this. Where are they going to get their bread? Little Red Hen's dead. I ain't going to get no bread. They were really feeling sorry for themselves. They didn't care much about Little Red Hen. They just wanted bread. So anyway, Farmer Fed came back out after he had his supper, and he looked at all the other farm animals who looked back at him, and they were a little nervous now, and he said, any of you going to complain or argue with me when I have you do something? All the other little farm animals said, well, no, Farmer Fed, we won't do that. That's where we're going, America. It's time to wake up. Pay attention. Look at history. Learn from it. Take a look at where we are. Take a look at the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence. Learn where we're supposed to be. Please. Have a good day.